blanket, boys.
So as you can see, this is going to be most likely Freeze Mage versus Control Warrior. So get ready for a long one and get ready for one of the most, or I wouldn't say one of the most, the most one-sided matchup in Hearthstone history.
Yeah, the absolute most. The only time where Mage wins is with an amazing Archmage, which fortunately for Hyped is in his hand.
Yeah.
That is the one upside to it.
You need the Archmage and you need the Alexstrasza on curve.
Yeah, perfectly on curve. Back to back with the double ice blocks perfectly set up. They don't even matter. I mean, it's just such a... I wouldn't even be surprised to see Hyped escape concede, but I think that might be against the policy of the tournament.
Hyped, he's like kind of smiling right now, laughing at like what happened.
The ridiculousness of everything. He's like, you know what? Why am I even bothering?
Yeah. Like what I said before, like, to be honest, I feel like breeding Freeze Mage when you're Hyped probably isn't a good decision overall, because most players are going to be trying to counter your rogue anyway, and one of or like pretty much the best rogue counter or one of the two best rogue counters is
are also countering. Yeah, but they also happen to counter Mage, Freeze Mage as well.
Exactly.
I mean, Face Hunter, like if RDU is running Fast Druid, Face Hunter, and Control Warrior, there is no way Hyped is getting out of this with a Conquest format.
Yeah, just sniping that rogue yet once again. But you know what? We see...
You know what? Ping the Armor Smith and give him the value he wants. Just like buff him up as fast as possible so he can get out of the game ASAP.
At this point, you can even like concede at this point, because like if you play the thing is, like, this is the one time you don't want to play Acolyte of Pain into 2/1/4 minions. How insane is that?
Oh, the fact that I'm actually witnessing this, and I mean RD is just like, you know what? Let's autopilot. Well, we can, if I had, you want to do some trivia? I guess I could find, do some Japarino. Oh man, we could, you know what? We could make bets about who takes the game. Not who takes the game, but which cards are gonna get top deck.
Okay, that could be fun as well. Let's make a bet on what the last card played in this series is.
Okay, I'm gonna say the last card played by Hyped is going to be Icelands.
Okay, I'm gonna say the last card played in this match, or this series, or no, this match, right?
This match, yeah,
this match is gonna be Ragnaros.
Okay. Oh, you know, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I feel like once Ragnaros comes down, Hyped might just concede, because when you're dealing with a warrior that has this much armor, like in fact 2 armor smiths on the field and this much armor, and then Ragnaros comes down, you have nothing to deal with it, then you pretty much want to give up. I've seen a lot of players run actually Big Game Hunter in Freeze Mage just to counter Ragnaros.
To counter Rag, yeah. It's their biggest weak spot.
Exactly. Ragnaros has just been so popular lately in tournament formats. Maybe not on ladder, but in tournaments it's actually pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty straightforward Kona Cold Doomsayer turn. In fact, it might work. Well, it's gonna work, but look at the amount of armor. That's like an extra 6. Actually 9. Oh my god.
So it's basically at this point, that's more health and more armor than you're ever going to be able to get into.
Yeah, I think RDU might just play Shield Maiden because he can. Doesn't matter. No, honestly though, like he will not, but he could, right?
Yeah, he could, and
it wouldn't even matter.
yeah, exactly. Like I think he just armor at this point.
Oh, all right. So 47 health right now. Let's try to see how high that can go. 47 effective health.
Wow. See, the other issue is that Hyped doesn't even have his card draw mechanics.
Yeah, they've been negated. So Fireball for 7, get that value out of the way.
Yeah.
You got through Shield Maiden.
Armor. This is when your Hunter idea would have worked out, like just getting rid of all armor.
Well, I think eventually they're going to add a card that does that, by the way. I really do think they will add a class-specific card for a specific class that's going to remove a huge chunk of armor. It could be a rogue card, like a stealth minion. When it punches face, if the enemy has extra armor, it removes it first, and then it deals damage to the face. But there's a million ways you could design it.
I would actually like to see a card like that be neutral, perhaps, like kind of like a Zod Mystic.
Could be nice, yeah. Stealth minion that removes some armor. Not a huge chunk, like 15 armor, but you know, you could remove 5. It's dead in most cases, but when you do get the value, then you're happy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the Ragnaros turn.
So you attack face and you lose everything, and then you play Rag, and you know it doesn't even. You know what? At least it's going to be a fast game. I'm gonna have to give that to RDU. He's speeding it up. This is usually like a 20-minute game.
Yeah.
Like it goes down to fatigue, and because he finds Rag at the very bottom, and then it takes forever.
Yeah, so now Hyped is actually really close to being dead, or at least getting his ice block popped.
Wow, Archmage Frostbolt.
So good.
Yeah, I know. Incredible value here.
Wow, getting a fireball? I can't believe that.
It's crazy. What are you gonna do, man?
Yeah, if you fireball the face, then that means your opponent still has like 40 health left.
Yeah, but you're almost there, right? You're only 40 to go. That's pretty close if you think about it.
6 down, 40 to go.
Yeah. Oh man, the cruel task execute. Not that it matters, but
So yeah, this might be...
that's gonna be game next turn. You know what? We're fortunate to at least have a very quick Freeze Mage versus Warrior, because usually those games, and like they really drag on for no reason, because you know the outcome of it before it starts. Even Hype knew it. As soon as he came into this, you saw the smirk on his face, like, well, this is gonna be game. And yep.
Yeah, this is just kind of one of those matchups that you have to give up on, and one of the weaknesses of bringing Freeze Mage into this kind of format. That being said, like, I feel like Freeze Mage is actually slightly better in the Conquest format rather than in the King of the Hill format, because King of the Hill format, if your opponent even just has a warrior in their lineup, they can just they can just counterpick it against that and just get an easy win.
Whereas Freeze Mage in general, if you steal a win against something like a Mecha Mage or a mid-range deck, you can usually beat mid-range decks. That's the strength of it, is you get a really good board clear in general, and you can transition to that late game when you've generally got a good matchup against a pretty wide portion of the field, including, Paladin's an auto win in general for Freeze Mage. There are many decks that are just easy to beat, but something like a Control Warrior is just horrendous.
Yeah.
So it's really just about not running into those.
Freeze Mage, I feel like, is one of those decks like Face Hunter and like Rogue that are really good against most decks, but really bad against
specific ones.
Yeah, exactly. Just very specific ones. And Control Warrior being that deck that kind of beats all three of them.
Yep. So Hyped is going to be picking his Mage again versus RDU's next deck is going to be Druid. So Fast Druid here with Double Spectral Knight has a pretty good matchup against Freeze Mage. And, so does Face Hunter if that's what he picked. So Hyped might have just gotten, lineup sniped.
Well, actually, I think most players agree that Freeze Mage is actually favored against Face Hunter.
Yeah, I guess to an extent, if you do get the... Because in general, I guess lately it's been the case. It used to be the way around where you could burst them down before they did anything. But with the removal, I guess, of Undertaker, the metagames changed.
We see actually Ragnaros in the opening hand of RDU. That means he runs Ragnaros in this deck. So we might actually see RDU keep Ragnaros in his opening hand just because of how good it is against Freeze Mage.
I mean, if you're playing Ragnaros in a Druid, it's either ramp or you're sniping against Freeze Mage. Right? I mean, do you see it much nowadays?
Not on ladder, but it's definitely a consideration for tournaments because, you might want to use it just against, Rogue or Freeze Mage, for instance.
All right.
So, yeah, RDU indeed keeps the Ragnaros because he knows the value of that card in this matchup.
Yeah, and he's got time ahead of him.
Oh, look at that. So, luckily
oh my god, what?
Alright, we're gonna see it. The famed turn 3 Ragnaros.
You are kidding me. There is no way this is real. Well, I mean, there is a Frostbolt Fireball, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
it's gonna be fine.
This Ragnaros won't be that great.
It won't even fall down on turn 4, will it? I mean, it will because RDU has to pray that Hype doesn't have the answer. If Ragnaros snipes a 2-2 though, this is better. Because otherwise it just dies to Fireball straight up.
Yes.
And that's gonna be a problem. Okay.
So at least Rag will get 2 shots in. That's
I mean, Hyped has to go Loot Hoarder, Coin, Frostbolt, and then Fireball. That's the only way. The only thing he's afraid of is something like a Earthring Farseer, but that's very unlikely.
Oh, Earthring Farseer, that'd be great.
Yeah, if he just goes, Loot Hoarder, Coin, Frostbolt, and then Earthring Farseer comes out to heal Rag, that's like a nightmare, but...
Yeah, that's pretty much game over because you can't kill Rag at that point.
Yeah, you have to top deck back-to-back answers.
Hyped might... He's definitely going to Frostbolt this turn, but he might be thinking of whether he wants to save the Loot Hoarder and the coin.
Yeah, the thing is, by playing Loot Hoarder, what you're forcing your opponent to do is, he might consider hero powering it just to make sure he gets the 8 damage in. But if you don't do that, then you allow him to play 5-drop unhindered. Wow, he's gonna curve into Ancient of Lore with that second Wild Growth. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and for example, if RDU, or rather if Hype didn't have that Fireball, then RDU could have even considered healing up the Ragnaros. Yeah, how crazy would that be?
If there was no Fireball here for Hyped, I mean, RDU would heal it up, I think. He would. It's such a strong play, but now we're transitioning to the portion of the game where Hyped... We were talking about this earlier, right? This exact situation where you have the amazing start, but you need to get the follow-ups in order to put pressure on. Well, he does find them, never mind me.
Yeah. I mean, that Doctor Boom is going to be very great.
Yeah.
Not only is it really tanky, it has 7 health, but the Boom Bots are going to deal insane damage to the Freeze Mage.
Yeah. And Hyped has a little smile on his face. This is the win that RDU might have been waiting for. This series, a convincing win, possibly, depending on how the games end. But, I mean, looking at this, there's a good Flame Strike value here. It's not terrible.
Somewhat, but...
You're going to take 7, and, bot damage. Maybe you just double Acolyte of Pain to set up for bot value. You're dead to Savage Roar, though, so you have to maybe... I mean, you can't even play around it.
I think you might be thinking of that you need to ping the Dr. Boom. I don't know. Well, because like if somehow your opponent gets rid of these Acolytes of Pain, and you and like Dr. Boom survives, then you're not gonna be able to kill it without clearing the board as well. Like Flame Strike doesn't actually clear the board.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Blizzard would in this case. It would actually help quite a bit. So Blizzard into Flame Strike would do it, but when do you put down the Ice Block?
Ouch!
Look at that health. Yeah, he can win basically with just Force of Nature on its own. And the Boombot hits. That's going to be likely enough. Well, that's going to be a good way to get an Ice Block out. The only secret left in the deck is the Ice Block. The Ice Barrier, the first Ice Barrier came out of the first Mad Scientist. So if you play Mad Scientist coin Blizzard, you could get an Ice Block off of it.
Yeah, hopefully the Boombots are aimed towards the minions and not towards the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist is going to come out, and this is going to be the defining moment of this game.
Yeah, it needs to get that Ice Block. They need to hit the minions, because if the face is hit, then Force of Nature wins. Or at least pops the first block. And down goes the Mad Scientist. Popping the second Ice Block here. Hyped has a second one in hand that he can play.
You know what's interesting is that because the Mad Scientist was played first, I believe you draw the cards first before you get the secret out. So it's possible that Hyped could have drawn his last secret.
Yeah, and not been able to do what he wanted. Well, it's going to be a bit of a tricky situation, because how do you pop the Belcher and the Slime? I think the answer is you can't.
The bigger issue is...
you can't ping Sylvanas.
Yeah. So at this point, do you just what's it called? Arcane
Int. Yeah, I think you Arcane Int after the ping on the Acolyte Sacrifice to hope for Frost Nova possibly.
Frost Nova into Doomsayer would be pretty insane.
Yeah, I think you need to do that, because otherwise your Flame Strike is essentially a dead card.
Or actually, yeah, you can't even Fireball into Doomsayer. He just needs a Doomsayer now, to be honest. Like, usually if you Fireball the Sylvanas and drop a Doomsayer on the board, you can force your opponent to steal the Doomsayer. Yeah. But that's not going to be an option here with the amount of mana that Hyped has.
Yeah, because RDU got, double Innervate initially, plus the double Wild Growth into Ancient of Lore for perfect curve draw. And we were talking about that earlier, right? The Druid's strength is in its ability to curve easily, no matter which, mana cost of the minion they have. And sometimes you see them have absolutely wonky hands, where they have minions, but they just can't play any of them. Not a single one.
Yeah, this is certainly not one of those times, though. Yep. Like, basically, RDU got the dream. He got double Innervate into Ancient of Lore, and we see a Nourish.
Yeah, that seems like Life Coach type of deck.
Yeah, it's essentially just Life Coach tech.
Wow, Hyped losing 2 games with his Freeze Mage. That Druid from RDU getting the perfect curve. That was a really insane start for RDU, but now he can't use his Druid anymore. He's going to be relegated to his Hunter. So now Hyped has to win against a Hunter. He's got Druid, Mage, and Rogue, which, I mean, Mage wins if it's face Hunter. Mid-range Hunter as well, sometimes. I mean, most of the time. So I guess he could stick to his Mage again, and RDU is going to have to go for his Hunter.
Yeah, I feel like Hyped has just stuck with the Mage the entire time, so I feel like he probably should just pick it at the next game. Yeah, why not? You're comfortable with the Mage. You kind of warmed up with the Mage, so really, like, you have to beat your opponent's Hunter with all 3 of your decks anyway, so might as well just stick it out with the Mage again.
And he does that, exactly. We've just been given information. He's going to be using the Mage once more.
Yeah, prove to everyone that your decision to bring Mage into this lineup wasn't a bad decision.
Yeah, and I think honestly, like, the decision itself was not bad if it weren't for RDU's lineup, the specific lineup that RDU brought, which punishes Freeze Mage quite, extensively. And worst case scenario, it looks like he's targeting Rogue, but it happens to also be, 2 out of the 3 decks that beat Freeze Mage.
Yeah, never lucky.
Hashtag Baby Rage. Well, we'll see exactly how this last game goes, but if the Hunter gets an obscene start, this could be very troublesome. And it does happen.
All right, we're starting off with the possibly final game, and it's going to be Face Hunter yet again. We've actually seen Mid-Range Hunter kind of disappearing out of the metagame.
It's gone, yeah. It cycles, it's back in when Druid becomes non-fast. When people are playing the Mid-Range Druid, it cycles back in, and then it gets thrown out by, Face Hunter, which then brings out the Control Warriors, which happen to beat Fast Druids, and then the metagame has to cycle to beat those. And you end up with a very dynamic metagame as a result.
Yeah. A lot of players say that actually that Mid-Range Hunter is favored against Druid, but I've heard a lot of people, like Nyman says, it's closer to 50-50 than most people think.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, Forsen even thinks that Druid is favored, so just a lot of interesting
dynamics there. A lot of people have different opinions about this matchup, but I think it all comes down to what you mulligan for. And each player has different mulligan preferences, right? And those very much affect the way that the matchup pans out.
Yeah, usually this hand is pretty terrible from Hyped, this double Ice Barrier hand. But actually in this matchup, it's not too bad.
It's borderline mandatory. I mean, Mad Scientist would work pretty well, but I'll take the double Ice Barrier, so the Mad Scientists pop out the ice blocks for sure.
Yeah, I was listening to Firebat cast in the VIA Game House Cup, and he says that he pretty much never loses this matchup when he gets 2 Ice Barriers in his when he's able to play 2 Ice Barriers. Basically.
Yeah, you've got 46 effective health, right? Is the same problem that Rogue has, or Face Hunter has against Control Warrior, or that Rogues have against Control Warrior, where when there's too much armor at play, you're running out of burst, and Face Hunter is all about dealing damage. There's nothing else. There's no complexity beyond dealing damage. So the point of it is to pack as much of it as you possibly can. Look at this play, for instance. Doomsayer on this board is crushing, because now RDU has to redirect 7 damage, not to the face, which means as a result that there's going to be a clear board, and it's going to buy time for Hype to play a turn 5 Mad Scientist Ice Barrier into a Blizzard if anything goes wrong. So really, I feel like this is a matchup that Freeze Mage has a pretty good time with. It used to be very one-sided for the Face Hunter, though. A long time ago.
Yeah, back when Flare was the thing, right?
Yep. It used to be unwinnable for Mage.
I'm glad they actually changed Flare. It was
a bit toxic, right?
Yeah, it pretty much didn't allow Mad Scientists for other secrets to really work out.
Alright, well, no Doomsayer was played by Hyped, but he's definitely going to be setting something up here, like a Doomsayer Ice Barrier after the trade into the other Mad Scientist. That is probably going to be a good play. Now, we look at the Explosive Trap here lying around, right, for RDU. It may seem insignificant, but sometimes it comes down to that very last Alexstrasza trying to attack. And it triggers the trap, which might kill the Mage. So it has to be timed right as far as triggering.
Yeah, also RDU could be bluffing Snake Trap. We actually saw a Snake Trap in his opening hand.
We were.
Yeah, he decided to mulligan it away, but we know he has Snake Trap in his hand, and that's actually very, very significant here. So Hyped might even be considering not attacking here with his Mad Scientist at all. We saw Savitz make a similar play in the VIA Game House Cup, for instance. Just kind of, even though he had a position where he could have somewhat tried to clear the board with Mad Scientist, he didn't want to give his opponent so many snakes.
No, you don't want to give him the advantage of maybe having more damage output if you don't have an immediate clear.
Yeah. So,
You know what? I wonder if with Flame Waker we're going to see Arcane Explosion. I'd like to see that. That'd be nice.
It's certainly possible, yeah. Although I feel like when you're playing new decks, you don't want to put bad cards into your deck just for the sake of comboing.
Of trying them out, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't get that combo, then you're like those cards are just really bad altogether.
Yeah. So apparently Hyped is not going to be triggering the secret, just killing the Mad Scientist. And now he gets the Explosive Trap. He gets information as to how many different types of traps are in RDU's deck. He sees the Explosive Trap trigger. It's a Face Hunter, so he's got to be expecting the Snake Trap. He saw the abuse. Although Abusive Sergeant wasn't a telltale sign that it's Face Hunter, it could still be a mid-range on the aggressive side. Although if the Arcane Golem comes out, that's going to be a giveaway.
I feel like the fact that that RDU has been trying to fit in hero powers every single turn, probably
does invoke, yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Like basically, RDU coined out the spiders, and then he hero powered on turn 2. Why would you do that if you're playing mid-range?
If you're playing mid-range, yeah, you're gonna have something better to do with that turn. Well, okay, oh man, such a tricky spot. So he's gonna be able to pop that second Ice Barrier, at least get it off the board, not wipe it completely to the point where he can start damaging the health, but he's gonna be getting it off. And the interesting thing is that with that Leper Gnome, he might have warranty against a board wipe at some point. When at the very end of the game, when the mage is down to 2 health with an ice block up, you put down Leper Gnome, he's completely locked out. Well, Alex Straza into Pyroblast Fireball does look like a viable line of play. That's a good Blizzard, and that's probably going to be game after that point. Blizzard played Doomsayer to prevent recurring minions.
Yeah, like
preemptively, just to make sure he doesn't flood the board with anything else.
I also like using Blizzard here instead of Cone of Cold because I feel like Cone of Cold, because it's less mana, it can be used later in the game. Exactly.
Yeah. If there is a later, which based on this is unlikely. Kazan Mystic Hype. You know what? That would be crazy. That would actually legitimately be crazy. If I see a Kazan Mystic come out of RDU,
that'd be a little too insane, I'd say.
Yeah. What if he plays Flare? What if RDU brings Flare to a tournament? Actually, what if a Hunter brings Flare to a tournament? Not just RDU, just anyone.
Well, I'd look forward to that day.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it one day and lose miserably.
It'll be certainly hype. Actually, we saw one of the Chinese players at the EU versus CN number 2 tournament do it. Unfortunately, he never drew into his Flare, which is very sad. Well, he's actually playing a Face Hunter Mirror, and if he had top decked Flare at any point of the game, he would have won.
Oh man, that's just enough to pop the block, right?
Wow.
But then he's dead. You know what? Hyped is hoping this is not Freezing Trap. What if there's more than just the Snake Trap and the explosives? What if there is a freezing? I didn't see the secret yet. What if?
Was that secret played?
It was a Mad Scientist secret.
It was a Mad... Okay, so it's definitely not Snake, or...
It could be Snake. It was explosive on the board. It could be Snake. Alright, we're getting word from the admins. A Snake Trap. Alright, good game, Hyped. You're taking this one. Yeah. Well, I had hoped that we would see an epic finish, but... I mean, regardless, you have to admit the... Wait, what?
Fireball still kills him, right?
No.
No, it doesn't. Wow.
What? He thinks it's freezing!
That's... interesting. I'm not sure what's going on here, to be honest.
How did he... Well, he could have at least played Fireball when he had Blood Mage on the board, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my god!
What happened here?
Now he's got to be feeling like he threw this game. He's shaking his head. RDU is confused more so than I am. I think those last two losses have taken their toll on Hyped's mindset. That was a complete throw. RDU is mind blown at the fact that he won.